to see you again and say hello to the new ones. My name is Ismail. I joined Gendo 2 months ago. Before that, I've been practicing architecture as well, like George, for the past 13 years. Worked in places from Cairo, where I studied, to Milan, where I did my master's, and then Foster's here in the UK before joining Gendo. I'm the head of applied AI here, so I work on fine-tuning models, testing them, and seeing how they could be useful for architects and designer, and the best way basically to present them. So yeah, I'm really excited to for our demo today, showing you the new stuff that we've been releasing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and as Joe says, we've got Kurt and Thea, the winners of our competition here as well. Really excited to have them walk us through what they did in response to the brief and show us all how they use the platform and yeah, their awesome outputs. So we'll hand over to them shortly after we've just gone through a couple more bits. So yeah, as hopefully you all know, Gendo is a browser-based platform where you can take your designs and use a number of tools tailored towards architects and designers, interior designers as well, to produce accurate representations of your design, and then use a suite of tools to make edits, iterations, material tests, variations, so that you can do your workflow on the platform. It's collaborative, so you can have your colleagues working in there too. But the idea is that you can work across the entirety of a design process and keep all of the decisions and record there and work with your colleagues asynchronously or simultaneously. So again, we'll get into it in a second, but that's it in a nutshell. So it's been a great year so far for Gendo. I mean, we've got some amazing stats here. We're generating over 1 million images monthly now. We have over 120,000 users who have signed up for the platform across 180 countries. And typically it takes 45 seconds to go from that first sketch to that first awesome image, which is super exciting. And yeah, with thousands of users daily who are now working it on their projects between stages 1 and 4, really across everything up to planning applications typically, and a few people beyond. But that's where most of our users are operating in the architectural context. But as I say, nearly a quarter of our users are also interior designers. Then we have landscape designers, industrial designers too. So all communicating their intent clearly on the platform, which is yeah, super exciting for us to witness. I'll maybe pause here and hand over to Ismail, who was hosting the ATN webinar.
Yeah, this is a really quick one. I mean, we promised that we will go through all the exercise boards that we did in the previous ATN workshop. I mean, it was crazy that we have received, I think, over 100 submissions in the live exercise. We did not expect that, so we weren't able to go through everything. So we went through them again, and we picked our two winners. So Jordan and Fabio, congratulations! You have also been picked as uh, part of our winners of the ATN exercise. We will get shortly in touch with you. I mean, I wrote a couple of points about why they were chosen. Like for the Jordan board, what I really liked is the consistency between that. Like there was one idea that you could feel it throughout all the views. So congrats on that you were able to present that. And for Fabio, two things that I really liked is the way they presented their idea on the board. So the use of the board was really interesting. So the idea was super clear and really well communicated, but also the unconventional use of materials. So it was a bit more dreamy, let's say. So yeah, congrats for both. And I guess Joe will be in touch with them quite soon. If they are even here, I don't know if they're
Oh, and I
Yeah,
attending.
can
we'll be
So
in touch.
see, I can see Jordan in the chat, so he's on
Oh,
the call.
amazing. Oh,
So yeah,
congrats,
we'll be
man.
with you.
yeah,
Awesome.
congrats.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, yeah, as Joe said, we ran the first of the sort of big formal Gendo competitions recently, the Gendo 48, which was a weekend of untethered full access to the platform with a brief written by Ismail and the team to use a space here in London to show some temporal changes and lots of quite broad open concepts. Maybe Ismail can go through the brief again quickly before we then hand over to Kurt and Thea, who will take us through their board and their thought process.
Yeah, so for this competition, I mean, it was kind of an experiment for us as well. It was a sort of it's not a traditional way you would do competitions in architecture where you spend like months designing. It's a sort of a hackathon competition where you have only 48 hours to get your idea seen. And the point of it was also not to have like AI slop, basically. So not to just generate things that are not buildable or not like attached to reality. So this is how we crafted the brief, basically. So it's a market that already exists and have like a lot of history and have a lot of architectural quality to it. And what we were looking for were ideas, yeah, but that respect all these sort of things. So it is very well grounded in reality, let's say. I would let definitely the winners speak about their design first and tell us also about the experience. I mean, this is the first time we're doing this, so we'd love to have some feedback about how intense it was or like how did you go through it. So yeah, I would leave now maybe the time for Kurt and Thea to go through it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share the screen then. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, please, and maybe introduce yourselves as well. We'd love to hear
yes,
your backgrounds too.
for sure. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity, Joe, George, and Ismail, and the rest of the Gendo team. So I'm Kurt. I'm an architect based in Netherlands. Yeah, and Thea.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Thea. I'm currently working in Amsterdam as a junior architect as well.
Yeah. So 48 hours was a bit crazy, but that's also what we loved about it. It was short, it was brief, it was intense. But we could finish it so quickly. And I think this is only achievable through this kind of quick-paced AI generation also. So it was a lot of fun. But first I can bring us through the kind of process we went through, the design thinking. So this first started with understanding the brief. We were given this a package of material, drawings, etc. We treated this very much almost like a normal project, where the brief is kind of the king, understanding what the client, which is you guys, the judges, want, really reading it through. And this can be very overwhelming, all this data and things like that. So we thought this kind of canvas was really amazing in the way we can paste all this information, and it seems very fragmented, but we can kind of start linking these ideas together also. Thea, you can mention a bit more also.
Yeah. So reading from the brief, it was very important to us that there was one sentence in the brief saying this building has always been survived by adapting. So that's why we looked into the old usage of the building, how different markets survived through a different period of time, and how the different generations of makers and salesperson were using the space.
Yeah, so using these sticky notes, etc., we kind of created this kind of timeline for us to understanding how things work. And we really were drawn to this idea how it started as this almost kind of producer, this idea of makers and really focusing on that. And these kind of hidden stories of these kind of porters that used to be in the market, how this can also be brought up in our brief furthermore. Then understanding the current situation, the kind of schedule. Wednesday, there's also this kind of urban maker collective, other craft elements to it. And so this kind of brought us to this idea of connecting this kind of fragmented network of makers, creators, these different knowledge domains, and really bringing them together in the Spitalfields market, and giving them a voice to really share how they can share this kind of tacit knowledge, how you kind of gain knowledge through making and being in the arena. So next up was understanding the site. As Ismail talked about, it was very clear in the brief, we didn't want AI slop. There was this kind of concrete element of this kind of steel roof. And yeah, Thea, you can maybe also talk more about how we approach this.
Oh yeah, so reading from the brief, it was definitely mentioned that the structure has to be untouched, and in most of the historical heritage buildings, I think that was also the main quality we wanted to keep. So from the beginning, we started to investigate what kind of users could be in the programs. So that's why we started to look into how the programs can be used by different users or in different zones. That's why we started to using diagrams to kind of show how the programs can be shared between different spaces and how they can organize in different ways.
Yeah, and what we loved about this canvas board was it didn't have to be so clean and refined. It was very dirty. You could use a snipping tool and just draw out these ideas and really share with your team what you're thinking and generate these ideas. So we had this kind of strong narrative arc of creating this maker's living room, this idea of this kind of agora, the space where people can come together. So we had this strong narrative, and that came next to the aesthetics, the idea of how this architecture can be shown. And I think this is where we can really show the workflow of how Gendo's kind of visual abilities in AI generation can really come through. We started with this idea of in Pinterest board, and if you can talk more about this kind of collage way of working.
Yeah, so in practice in the Netherlands, we sometimes were asked to create kind of package for the client without making any designs. So they are very important to communicate your ideas to the clients using a mood board that is very deliberate, curated, your own perspective on the vibes that the building can bring. So I think Gendo can also use their board to kind of illustrate that mood board, but also adding the idea of AI to manipulate those images. That's kind of interesting for me.
Yeah. So yeah, building on that, we already had these inspiration. We did some kind of rough sketches based on the program that we created for different demographics. Then I think what was really enjoyable is how we can already test these very raw ideas initially, taking this kind of market space, how we could immediately kind of empty it. Then we can use this as a base with these kind of Pinteresty ideas to already test these ideas, even though this is not so controlled, but it gives you a general taste of how it would look like. We liked these kind of different pavilions in the space, but we also thought it was a bit messy and needed a bit more control. And in that way, it brought us to this idea of a fabric using the iron steel structure, the grid, as a way to kind of control these thresholds, adapt it, and create these kind of moods of intimacy and things. And even though it's still not so controlled, it kind of gave us the general direction. And what we did next was we brought these two ideas together, taking this image, taking this other image as a reference image, and bringing them together to get this general idea of how the space could look like. Then we tested more on these kind of more detailed elements. Even though it's not successful, I've seen Ismail do a lot of very beautiful details. Still not sure how to prompt that, but that would be something I want to continue learning. Yeah. So we have this kind of visual language created, and this brought us to the design process, the nitty-gritty of it, actually modeling these kind of pieces that we wanted. And we obviously had 48 hours, so we used this very simple idea of using these very primary shapes. So the children were these kind of circular forms in different aspects, adults triangles, fabrication, these kind of rectangular shapes, etc. And so we created this kind of archive of different pavilions that we can place into the space. I don't know if it's necessary to show this, but it could be interesting to see. So we had this roof. The roof was always modeled in a correct manner. Then we quickly modeled, kind of quickly, it was 48 hours, these kind of shapes, etc. So we had a general idea of how the scale and things would work. Then it continued on to this kind of narrative to really bring in this time aspect of things. I don't know if we're talking too long or you guys want to jump in whenever, but we can continue. And it went on to this kind of zoom out of the storyline of how this building can even come into fruition before the building begins. And this starts with kind of neighborhood participation, a kind of democratic process of how these makers, we were the makers in this sense of crafting these things, but in reality, it would be these different crafters, these different networks, creating a sense of ownership, creating a dialogue, and creating this idea of knowledge exchange already. So we fed all these different modules you saw here and put them on the table, tested different forms with the different kind of image generation styles that Gendo has. And what we found, I don't know if Thea wants to add also a bit more to this idea. Yeah.
Yeah, what we found is participation is very important in historical preservation projects. That most of the time the craftsmen are the people who's shaping those buildings, and that's why we thought that in one of our concepts, it could be really strong for our proposal to bring in this human perspective into an image to convince people.
Yeah, it was very nice to be able to populate the scene, giving this kind of human touch to the spaces. In architecture, we usually create these kind of sterile, cold diagrams that we made very quickly, but we immediately tested how a human touch can be brought into it with just a simple prompt, like add a hand or lifting the roof, etc. And I think everyone was quite drawn to this image in particular of the picking up of these pieces. It was prompting even the hands. We could control the different ages, the different to really bring the story into fruition. And I also really like this image. It almost felt like a theater set where people were kind of playing around with it, etc. So it was really nice to see how this canvas board, we can reiterate, build on the idea, and really create a storyline for the project. Yeah, then next to continue on the life cycle, I thought this really showed the kind of reiterative power of this canvas board, really. We once again started with this very simple Rhino model, placed a few people for scale. To really, what we found with AI imagery is it's very hard to control. So you need this kind of strong foundation for it, but then based on that, you can build so much more onto it. So just based on this one image we created on Enscape, we were able to create all this variety. So I could quickly take you through it. We told them to empty out the space. Then we thought, could be nice for some kind of carpenters to discuss it in the early processes. Then you can see in this kind of timber frame, you can see everything was colored, but we just prompted it to tell it to make it in basic wood construction. It was a bit empty in the front, so I prompted it to, based on this material, to create another prompt, add some material in the front, so the composition is a bit better. And then the storyline of how the painting can be this kind of communal activity to further add to the storyline, etc. So it just showed how one image you can already create so much variety through it. And I thought that was also quite a fun experience in that way. So yeah, that would be kind of an overall view of these things. And by here, we were already like 2 to 3 hours like left. So it was not a lot of time left, but we obviously wanted to capture a lot more of these different modules that we designed quite deliberately. I don't know if Thea wants to jump in and talk about this a bit more also.
And then in zooming into the perspective, I think we found out how our like more generic shapes can be also framing the image. For example, these circular frames is probably also in our concept that it's a way to showcase the structure can be a really interesting aspect of the image. And this also continued when we started to generate another perspective image.
Yes. And to really gain control of these kind of spaces, we very quickly modeled these spaces on Rhino just to get a feel of the scale and things, adding a few people just to understand how it would look, gain a bit more control of this kind of basic framework of this red. then you can see from this kind of basic image, what I really love about Gendo is this very quick button, enhance, and you already immediately get something so much more lively and real. And you get the space already. Then just use the populate. It's so simple. Honestly, you just use the populate button and then you get this kind of amazing image already. And we did the same thing with this. And even with this kind of sky, you get this in Enscape, you have this kind of muddy sky. Then we enhanced it once again and then add blue sky, and there you go. I mean, yeah, you have a final image already. Yeah, I don't know. We did the same with these other narratives, but I don't know how much more we want to continue. Yes.
Yeah,
We
maybe
can,
just a couple of questions for you. I mean,
yeah.
firstly, it's awesome. We had a really strong field of competitors, to say that as well. But this was a standout project amongst all the judges, and it's awesome to see someone go from like a, strong concept through to actual design in CAD to then images that, communicate what it is you're doing and
Mhm,
consistency between each of those steps, right? In
mhm.
practice. So yeah, super awesome. I wonder if you could maybe talk about your experience of selecting your sort of views and inputs. We get a lot of questions around how to get the sort of really high quality images you're showing, and I think that often comes down to the information you're sort of starting with. So I wonder if you could talk about how you found that starting point to, to get these best images out.
Um, I don't know. It's hard to explain that part, but in the way that AI imagery now allows everyone in many senses to create a beautiful looking image, but I think that's where architects, our taste, our understanding of what looks nice comes back. Understanding what perspectives or how to frame the view comes back to understanding how to tell the story in a coherent manner. It's like renders like Mira and things like what makes them so special is their ability to tell a story through their image. I think then you have to go back to understanding what the narrative was. So that was also why we created these images, for example, with the hand, etc. I don't know if that really explains it, but we can also, for example,
If you go to the right side
yeah.
of the process board, there are some wide angled image that we created. And then at first we were like, oh, we wanted to show more of the programs and how the space are divided, but it doesn't really work that bad.
Mhm.
At the end, we chose the more like central space.
Yeah, no, makes total sense. It's easy to want to show everything all at once, but that
Mhm.
sort of waters everything down at the same time. So I
Yes.
think certainly the right call to be more focused with it. And yeah, I agree entirely with your assessment, right? Like nice
Mhm.
images are easy on generative platforms, but
Mhm.
ones that to your specification are obviously much harder and consistent with your design. So that's, our core thesis really behind the product. So I'm pleased to hear that that was possible.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can jump in, I mean, first question would be, are you sure it was 48 hours? Because this is insane. Like, how did you guys manage to do all this, like come up with ideas and actually model and yeah, it's
It was
it's
lots of coffee, maybe 5 hours of sleep in between, and then
yeah.
yeah.
No, really incredible. And what I really liked is that you could see the thinking process, which is really nice on the board, and you
Hmm.
presented it in a very simple way. Like you could see right away that you started with this image, and these are all the iterations
Hmm.
with it. And what I really liked also about this, and maybe that differentiated it from the others, is how playful also it was. Like it was, you guys were having fun. You weren't just like trying to be too, yeah. Sometimes when you get too literal, the ideas are like very rigid, but you can see it in the design that the design itself has like this joyful thing in it.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, congrats. Really, really, really good project. Maybe if I could ask something, it would be what would
Hmm.
you say was a bit more challenging for you guys while you were working? You mentioned scale and adding people, I think this is a very good point that I will be touching on in the demo.
Mhm.
Yeah, like anything that you found like in the process that maybe hindered it a bit, or like you would have loved to maybe would have yielded better design decisions or something. Did you collaborate while you were working together? Like give me some insight about like yeah, some painful moments, let's say.
Mm. Okay. Thea, do you have any ideas, or I could also continue?
Um, I think at first, it was really hard to organize a lot of images all at once because I see that the zooming out is not really zooming out. You only see part of it. But then when we first had like the idea, it's already clear what's to do next. So the image generation part is already the easiest part for us. The most harder part is organizing it in a way that it's convincing and it's clear that that's the start of the project. And I think the
Mhm.
image generation is already a lot better than what I expected. Because in most of the platforms that we use in practice is a lot of archiving and you have to dig into different images. And in the board, you already see them side by side, even though it's not a lot, but you can choose already what's the best quality and which direction you can go into instead of just trying out different ways.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
one last question from me would be: we have a few hundred people watching now. What
Mhm.
advice would you give to them, having come out the other side of this, in terms of getting started and using the tool in the most effective way?
Just literally make a count and jump in and just it's it's really that simple. And start playing around with it because the interface is so easy. Use it's placing an image and then you can immediately already render an image based on a simple prompt, enhance, etc. It's really I have to say it's really catered towards I don't know if designers and architects in that it's really seamless with what a normal workflow would be already. So I think that there isn't much friction. It's just that fear of jumping in and exploring that one has to take. Yeah.
And I also think being more deliberate with what you're staging is very important. It's like a theater stage. You have to be careful, like what you wanted to show. For example, the steel structure, I think is very important to show it in our all of
Mhm.
the images. And the more detail you have deliberately putting on to like simple like architecture elements, you can already make a lot of impact on the image.
Yeah, and all our images, you still have to, you can't just like have it start from zero in many cases. You can, but it's better to have some kind of base or idea of what direction you're going for. This can create much more successful tests and iterations, I believe. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, thanks again, guys, for taking the time to walk us all through it. It was fascinating to see your process and the ultimate outcomes. So really
Mhm.
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I can't wait to see, I don't know, the new updates you have. And I have one small request.
Please.
Can we make it so we can change the font size or things like that? So, because this is all just screenshots from a Word document.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
but
mean, yeah,
but I'm sure that will
nerve-wracking.
come very soon. But yes, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Can't wait to see what comes next. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks again. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe on that point, we obviously saw loads of boards, right, for the competition, and it was
Mhm.
clear that some sensible layout and fonts and annotations would be well used. So, message
Mhm.
received.
Yeah,
That said, I love to see like people hacking things, and you kind of hacked it here, and it works really well. So yeah, it's
thank
good to
you.
see also how you can creatively go around these little things. Yeah, I mean, if you want to present something, you will be able to basically. You don't need to wait for tools to
Yeah, I
have the tools.
saw a lot of the competitors they use the sketching as a really fun method to do that. It was very fun to see everyone's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice, awesome. Well, I'll just
Thanks,
steal back
guys.
the screen. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
inviting us.
No, thanks, guys. Um, yeah, nice. Okay, hopefully my screen is back on. Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, yeah, the last thing to say about the competition really is also a thank you to our judges who also gave up their time to go through all of the many submissions we had. The Gendo team also too for vetting. So yeah, Andres Parthinger, Christina Christopoulou, Ismail, Oliver, Thomas, and David Basulto all appreciated efforts, time, and judgments. It was great to work with those guys as well. Cool. So we've just had a walkthrough of the competition, but now we'll hand over to Ismail, who will sort of start something from scratch, try and answer some of the questions that have already come in through the chat, and just show some best practice and some, some previous generated stuff too, I think. So yeah, I'll hand over to him.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen. So yeah, for those of you who are still new, let me try to minimize this so I can see. Yeah, perfect. For those of you who are still new to Gendo and this is the first time you see it, I will try to take it step by step in the beginning and like go live with you guys trying to generate something not prepared so that if something happens, I can show you how I would go about solving it. So as George mentioned briefly in the introduction, Gendo is a collaborative canvas where you can upload your images, generate with them, and generate images within the canvas. So when you first sign up, this is what you will be greeted with, like different projects. And here I'm just going to create a new empty project, and I'll call it a workshop maybe. So when you start a new project, this is what you are greeted with, an empty canvas. And we deliberately, like, there are so many little decisions that have been taken in designing this platform. There's a lot happening in the infrastructure in the backend. It looks really simple, but there's a lot of complexity happening in the backend. We think about architects and designers, yeah. So we are designing this product for them. So their main focus needs to be on what they are designing without and trying. This was probably why my question was about friction. We are trying to make it as smooth as possible. So you will be greeted with this nice empty canvas that you
Sorry,
can.
1 second, Ismail. I'm not sure you're sharing your screen.
Okay. I mean,
I can
maybe
see
I'm
the
dropping a bit.
yeah, I can see it, George. It might be
Oh, okay.
you might be
Just
host.
me. Apologies.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see an empty canvas now, right? Nice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So first of all, actually, let me, before I forget, this is a collaborative space. So if I hit the share button and make this canvas public, everyone here should be able to see it. So I copied the link and I will just try to paste it inside the Zoom chat if I'm able to find it. Maybe if I do like that. Yeah, I need to maximize, I think. Chat. Maybe Joe, you can help me
Yeah, I'll drop it in.
pasting it
You've
for
just shared
everyone.
you shared it. Yeah, no problem at all.
Perfect. Heading back, so everyone can jump in and join. George is already there, as you can see. And yeah, so basically, you have some functions down there that are not related to like generating with images. So, for example, generating an image with text, a cutout, sticky notes, and annotations. But you can always start by uploading an image like what we were discussing. So this is a collaborative canvas. Everyone is here now, as you can see. And the whole idea of it is that I'm just gonna pick one image to start, drag and drop it in. And I'm going to show you. So right now, if you select an image, you will see there are some contextual tools that are related to this image that will help you to generate with it. And as you can see, there are no drop-down menus where you are like picking models and trying to understand which model would work for what you want to do. There is no like window that shows you, hey, you're running out of credits, you cannot generate anymore. It's really designed to make it simple, and the terminologies themselves are terminologies of designers, not of someone who's an ML engineer or like an AI specialist, because this platform is basically made for architects and designers. Yeah. So I'm just gonna start by selecting this image, and maybe I will go quickly through what we can do with this image. This is a simple massing model, and I will just like start with a render design. So when you select an image and you select a tool, you are greeted with this nice form that you can fill. So each tool, if I move between them, has its own inputs. And for this render design, this is basically a tool specifically made to visualize a mass, a sketch, CGI into a photorealistic image. So this has been particularly trained to do that. And as inputs, you either have an optional image reference and a prompt. So maybe for this example, maybe I want to use like an image reference. I have an idea about like some materiality and some light that I want to use to try out on this mass. And I'm just gonna grab one of my references, maybe this one, drag and drop. So as you can see, the canvas is dealing with images. So any sort of images you are able to quickly add them to the canvas and have them alongside what you already have. And I'm just going to hit back the render design. I'm going to drag and drop this image that I have, and maybe, yeah, I'll write a very simple prompt of render this massing using the materials and lighting of the reference image. Let's see what it does. So the fact that the renders are unlimited and that this is a collaborative space, it makes you try things. Yeah, it makes you design through a process like what we saw with the competition boards. So it's not about like having the perfect prompt the first time. It's about just starting, and you will be able to be guided through the images that are generated on what to do next. And what's nice also about having this working also collaboratively, as you can see, George is already generating stuff down there. Use the text to image here.
Ismail,
Down
just as
there.
you're going, we had a couple of questions that might be useful just to jump in, if that's all right as well, whilst you're going.
Absolutely.
One of them, which was, would you rather use a 3D base or like a loosely sketch, if that's working
Yeah.
too, which is one. And then the other one was, what happens if I got more than one reference image? So maybe if you want to handle
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, really good questions. I mean, we're jumping a little bit ahead, but I have a board here, I think, that summarizes the types of input. So we are like, it's software agnostic. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're using Rhino, Revit, SketchUp, any sort of modeling tools, or even if you're sketching, inputs could be anything from within that realm. So from something still very early stage as a sketch, you can already use these tools with it and render design. Of course, you want the model to fill the gaps a bit more, and the model is intelligent enough to understand that this is a sketch and that it will be filling the gaps more than a CGI rendered image already, where you have applied materials, etc. I would be going a little bit more through these types of inputs, but to answer the first question, it's model agnostic. Your input can literally be anything. It could be also even more abstract than that. It's about how you play with it, basically, and playing with it comes with trying things. Yeah, so I got two results already here, where it's kind of following quite well what we have here. one of them use the concrete up, and which is a nice variety also to get. This is a nice starting point. I'll just place this down there. Sorry, remind me the other question. What was it? Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, the other question,
Uh,
well, I've had a couple more come popping through as well, is what happens if I've got more than one reference image?
yeah. So right now I'm using the render design, which uses only one reference image function. But if you have multiple reference images and you want to kind of blend them and give the model an idea, I would recommend using the chat tool, which I can jump into right now. So for example, let's grab another reference image. In that case, I mean, they are not, if you're using multiple reference images, I would recommend that they speak the same language. So I mean, they need to have like a sort of coherency between them. I don't have this right now. These are maybe kind of close to each other, but yeah, definitely if you're using multiple things, make sure their concept or their idea is there's some common ground between them. So down there we have a Gendo assistant, which is basically a chat interface that understands what's going on on the canvas, as well as all these functions where you can bounce off ideas with. I really enjoy working with this especially when it's early in the design, to just try things out with it and ask it questions and let it suggest things for me. So for example, I'm going to drag and drop this image inside the Gendo assistant. You can just like literally drag it and drop it here. And say what we are talking about now. I want to render this image using multiple references. Let's see what it says. So it goes ahead and it starts inspecting this image. So it understands what we're dealing with, the input image that you have. If it's a sketch, if it's a detail model, if it's a massing model, and understanding also the architectural language behind it. And it starts giving you suggestions. So let me try to, I will drag one by one here. And I say here are my references for this. Again, because this is a question that happened live, I would definitely try to have like more coherency between them, like have multiple images. It would probably mean that they have like a certain theme. And I was inspecting both of them and trying to understand how to apply it there, and it will come with some suggestions for me. So yeah, sophisticated moody aesthetic, I'm gonna mix masonry, blah blah blah. And it suggested some design. Like, as you can see, these are as of right now, like we generated like a couple of images down there. Everything, we are only thinking in terms of design ideas. We're not thinking about anything related to AI models, what to use, what's the CFG scale, what's the latent space. We
Yeah, it's
deal with
great.
this
I
stuff.
think
Yeah.
someone in the questions was just asking about some other platforms that are maybe a bit more data oriented. So maybe just to highlight that point that there's no nodes or question about which model you're using, etc. It's all abstracted away so that Ismail says you can focus on design decisions and communicating what you want to communicate there, rather than thinking about which node connects to what and what should be doing at any other point. So always in that sort of design frame of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can see right away, I mean, even like just by having these suggestions, it already kind of starts, I don't know, activating some neurals in your brain about like some ideas or idea streams. So I really enjoyed the chat because of this, exactly, because here it saw it inspected these two images and it came up with some ideas that maybe I don't like, that I could edit, that I could maybe even challenge a bit. But for the sake of us being live also and trying different things, I'm going to choose the first thing that it suggested, which is a textured brick and masonry. I'm guessing it's getting the brick from this image. And then it's asking me about the environment where we should place this building. So because we have two different environments also here, again, coherency is important. So let's go with the urban setting since we have already like here some waves happening. And then, yeah, it's asking me about the lighting. So this is really good because sometimes when you're prompting also, you miss some important aspects of details of the image. And by having this assistant, it kind of reminds you or like gets the approval from you about all the aspects that you need to somehow give to the model. So it's really nice to have like this confirmation step, I think. And I'm just gonna hit generate now. It's asking me if I'm ready to generate, and I think I'm happy. I would definitely recommend reading everything. Right now, I'm not reading everything again because of for the sake of like trying other stuff, but I would read and like have a conversation with it rather than just like going uh,
Yeah, there's
with the first
a good
option. Yeah.
question in the chat about the references as well. I mean, Ismail's already said that you want to make sure that the images you're using are consistent with the output that you're expecting. Core tenet we live by is that, text prompts are okay, like they'll help you get there. But obviously all of this is visual and design based. So images contain, crazy amount of information, right? About lighting, materiality, texture, etc. So that when you can get a good reference that aligns with what you're seeing, you're much more likely to get the outcome you're after. And where you might be missing a reference, we have the describe tool to sort of describe the idea in your head that can get you ballpark, and then you can apply that to your sort of design. So there's a few ways to get to that critical reference, but generally it always performs better if you can give that kind of guidance.
This is what you did down there, yeah, George, now. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
basically created, yeah, if you can also like walk through what you did now.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly that, right? I started with the same design that you uploaded, but I wanted a particular reference. In my head, I wanted some nice green tiles. So I used describe to very basic prompt to get some tiled doorway. Someone asked about a sort of one-shot solution. That never really happens. So I got something that was 80% of the way there in that first iteration. I then used chat to say, I want the tile to be all over the facade, not just on the door, to then get that reference, which is closer to what I wanted. And then I used Ismail's input with render and that reference to get some outputs there. And I've now gone on a couple of steps to add in people and then a little sculpture as well on the facade too. So layering in the information and what I was imagining. So iterative, stepwise, try a few things out to get to the result. It's never a one-shot thing, and it's all about the process, not about just producing an image.
Absolutely. And I find myself jumping a lot, at least in these like really raw early stages. I find myself jumping a lot between the render design and the chat, maybe the chat even more, because it helps you with this, like it helps you get some direction. But I mean, we covered this a little bit in the previous workshop, so I would love to like start maybe showing you one of the new tools that we released recently, which is the edit tool. So just a quick introduction about it. We've seen from a lot of our users, there's this thing that is called prompt anxiety, where you basically in your prompt you try to explicitly tell the model what not to change. So we've seen this a lot. I do this a lot also. Please do not change anything, all in caps, yeah. Please leave the architecture exactly the same. I only want you to, I don't know, add a person. So this happens a lot, and this is because also models tend to like get a little bit creative when you're giving them instructions. So the edit tool is basically our attempt and our solution to this prompt anxiety problem. We've created this select area, which makes you certain that only the area that you select within the image is the one that is going to be manipulated by the AI, and everything else stays intact. Even like the resolution and the aspect ratio of the image does not get manipulated at all. So by selecting this regional edit tool, I'm going to save and continue and maybe start with something simple of add more life to the interiors, maybe with motion blurred people or something. I'm just trying this stuff live with you guys. Like this is so the nice thing about it is that now you're sure this is the only portion of the image that is going to be manipulated. Everything else stays exactly the same, and this is based also on a lot of feedback from people about this.
Yeah, a
And
couple of
yeah.
questions again. Someone's asked about credits. We don't have credits. It's a seat-based pricing model. So when you have a subscription, you can generate as much as you want. There's no limit. We want people to be creative and test and play. So we've removed that. And another question about the selection being square. We have a few tools on the platform. Swap Material lets you draw a much tighter mask because that's about changing something quite specific and not the architecture. The edit is more of a general sort of add new information in, make some bigger moves and changes to the image. As you may have seen on the previous board and the little heart I just drew, we're adding in sketch annotation. So soon you'll be able to use that to draw what you would want or to mask a more specific shape as part of your generative instruction so that you can get, again, another layer of nuance and control over the generative process. But that is upcoming, not long.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could also speak a little bit about the pencil and how significant it was in the competition as well. Like it was such an important tool to have in the competition. I mean, it really made us rethink, uh, like it's like to rethink its importance inside this canvas, and it sort of enforced the fact that it's inevitable that we need to, like, when you sketch something on the image, you need to be able to generate with it, because it's not only about adding nice annotations and creating nice flows between ideas, but it's also about communicating better to the AI model. We communicate if we much more effectively when we sketch. Like this is sort of like an architect's thing. Yeah, this is the best way we communicate is through sketching. Our ideas are driven by sketches. So yeah, it's up and coming. We will be talking about also the up and coming features after this quick demo.
Yeah, and also
But yeah.
maybe just to answer another couple of questions in terms of models. We have, I think, maybe 14, 15, maybe more models behind the scenes. As I said, those are abstracted so that you as user just don't have to think about it. It's our problem to worry for you as to what is the most effective model to be using at different steps. A lot of the models are ones that we've trained and refined for the purpose. So while we have Nano Banana and things in there, they're not really actually very much of the generation requests that we do, and more so our custom models. So that's why you won't really see any reference to models in the interface, because we handle all of that for you behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it's not just about one model, yeah, George. I mean, there are also multiple models that, yeah, work together until you have images. It's not like about, hey, I need to use just this one thing and it will like give me
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
want, right?
Yeah, there's not I mean, only one or two of them are just a single step. A lot of them are daisy chains that we've crafted
Exactly.
specifically for the workflow that we're supporting. So yeah, as I say, abstract all of that away.
So yeah, as you can see, I just want to showcase the new edit tool and like the anxiety around things changing. Nothing outside the box changed. Like I'll try to do zoomed in. So I'm moving between the two generations. As you can see, everything stayed exactly the same. The only thing that changed is basically the area where I told it to, and it added here some people. And in the second generation, it added this nice glow that I actually like. And the great thing about this is that you can basically do this infinitely. Yeah, use the edit tool to edit this image infinitely without losing any sort of quality to it. This is 1601.5K image, but you can be using this edit tool on like already upscaled images, like up to, yeah. You can use it on big images and it won't affect anything outside, which is something that I think is really powerful to help you during your design thinking also as well. Like, so you don't have this anxiety of, okay, I finally got this thing that I like, but it keeps changing because the model gets creative or because the model iterates too much on it. I can maybe, like, this is a nice segue to show you an example of, like, I want to move this zoom thing away. Yeah. Before jumping like into the types of inputs, this is just an example of a starting image that I had, and I worked through it, I think more than 20 times, 20 edits. And as you can see, the resolution is still the same. Let me go back to the starting point. Yeah, so you basically what you could do is you could have a nice base and then start changing the bits. It's a sort of a way to design as well. Yeah, so it's not just about removing, like here I'm removing stuff, removing the plant, adding stuff, adding someone on a bicycle, adding some life to the interior, like what we just did, adding a car, removing stuff. Yeah, adding some people, adding some life to the image, but also some material change. So here I'm changing the material of the curtains. And also like here I'm doing some design decisions. Like I wanted to see what would happen if, like, what would it look like if I add timber soffits. So the soffits were concrete here. I wanted to try with timber, trying different stuff here as well, changing the interior again, and then trying something on the whole facade, making the metal a little bit more shiny. So you can do these subtle things that help you show your idea much better with this edit. And you would see all my prompts are quite simple. Yeah, you don't need to get very detailed with your prompts about, I want to keep this, I want to, please don't change it, all in caps, change only you're not thinking about that because you are working within your region basically. And here, basically, I was just like having fun. Yeah, as you can see here, I'm adding a little bit texture to only this portion, which is, yeah, it's quite a refreshing way of designing, to be honest, because yeah, every time with every edit you get another nice idea that takes you somewhere else, which is
Yeah,
nice.
there's been a couple more questions. One about
Yeah.
some image degradation, which maybe just to acknowledge that there's a fundamental problem with some of the models available now, that while they're super good at making an image up front, that if you iterate over and over and over again, there is a sort of slow degradation of that. So you may notice over time if you use the same feature that happens. But I think Ismail's got some recommendations on how to sort of sidestep that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the theory of how AI models work, but part of it, like when you are re-rendering the whole image, the diffusion model or the AI model has to re-render all the pixels, and this leads to when you have like so many edits on the same image subsequently, it leads to some degradation of the quality. And basically, everything you've seen with edit solves that. So I would definitely recommend when you are adding things, like editing little portions of the image, not the whole image, to use the edit select area tool, which would not do any image degradation. But if you're basically changing the whole image, so changing the lighting, I don't know, applying something to the whole image, you could either use the chat or the render design. Render design is mostly made for like more realistic images. Chat is a little bit more general. It can deal with anything not anything. I mean, most of most of your requests would be dealt with if you're using the Gendo assistant. In the previous workshop, I went through with the chat editing the mass itself. So without going back to the model again and trying to fix things with the model and getting back inside here, you can actually do edits to the mass itself if you give proper context to the chat. So just like open the chat, tell it, don't render anything realistic. Let's work on the mass. What about trying a different facade rhythm? Yeah, and it will edit this image. It's really good for that. But if you have a realistic image that is something like this one, which is already upscaled and quite high resolution, yeah, I would definitely recommend using I populated it a bit here. I would definitely recommend using the new edit tool, the selective edit, and going piece by piece about what you would want to edit. I mean, maybe in this portion, we want to make it less textured, make the concrete more smooth and less textured without changing color. Yeah, I mean, this would be my recommendation
Yes, maybe
about
while that
proper
one's
way to edit.
generating,
Yeah.
just to say that we are working on resolving that issue. We are aware and actively trying to deal with it. The other thing to suggest is that we have the enhance feature too, that if you end up getting down a bit of a rabbit hole where the degradations hit, it may be worth trying the enhance to bring the quality back up to then continue to iterate, but an imperfect solution temporarily while we resolve it properly.
Yeah, this is also a good time to maybe look at the enhance tool. Enhance is like, the good thing about enhance is that it really follows the input. Like it tries as much as it can to follow exactly all the little details that you have in your input image, but making it realistic and photographic. So it's a good use case for it. I had an example here, I think. Yeah. Here I created a cutout with the cutout tool. Maybe I could show it also later, but I just collaged it in, and as you can see, it's quite collagey. I collaged these two in, and I used the enhance function on this image. And what enhance tries to do is it tries to understand your image and basically make it a realistic photograph. So if you have like some sort of collage that you want to make to transform into a realistic image. So as you can see here, it kind of blended everything with the lighting quite well, making it quite realistic. So it works really well with that. Another quite good use case for it, I had an example here that maybe we can try, is if you have something that looks CGI like that, like it's a very rough CGI image, enhance, basically what it will do is it will try to make it realistic while trying to keep all the little details quite intact. This is a good example because it's a quite challenging one, because first of all, the angle is quite strange, the aspect ratio is even stranger, and also like some of the aspects here are quite low poly. So I'm interested to see how well Enhance works with this.
Yeah, the other thing to say about that composite example is that obviously the canvas is super powerful for laying all of this stuff out and seeing all the iteration. It, of course, invites the question of how you can start to layer assets together. Ismail there demonstrating like he did it offline to put those things together to then use these tools. It is also on our roadmap to get a composite tool on canvas so that you can do all of this stuff in one place and not have to go offline to manage it. So another one on the roadmap for you.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that we were working on for sure. Yeah, basically what I do now, I mean, it's not the perfect solution, but it's quite easy to, maybe we can do something now to generate. So this is our cutout tool that you can place from down here, where you have this mannequin that you can set some presets for it. So running fast, for example, it will create a running mannequin, and you can run it and rotate it the way you want, and then you can pause and then generate based on that. So then you have a couple of choices of age, ethnicity, identity, and clothing. I'm just going to generate for now. Again, it's up to you to go really detailed with that, but I just want to generate a cutout and maybe place it on this image just to show you, like, when compositing tools are here, that this is quite powerful also to show, demonstrate scale, basically, yeah. So yeah, we had two. They're running, not the exact same pose, but quite close.
Good that he's running away from the wave there.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe jumping in the water. But yeah, running away from the wave is maybe a better narrative. Yeah, I'm roughly doing the scale. Maybe it's within the same line down there, so it needs to be something like that, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, so the hack right now is that I will just, this will definitely like make the image lose a bit of quality, but I'm just showing you like when compositing comes, what will happen. So the great thing about like working in a canvas is that it's so easy to add images. Yeah, so I just took a screenshot and added it in, but you can also copy and paste images quite easily from anywhere. So it's very straightforward. Like if you also have like your Photoshop on the side, to just copy and paste the image here and start playing with it. So I'm just gonna hit enhance, see what happens.
A couple other questions just while you're doing that one, Ismail. So a couple of questions about changing the camera angle. Oh, nice, actually. Maybe let you, yeah,
Yeah, not bad. No, I mean,
yeah.
so it tries, you
that's-
see, like the car, like what I did with the car was quite incredible. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be, yeah. So it tries to also respect the geometry quite well. So there was a lot of detail here with the brick and everything, and a lot of lines here. So it respects it quite well while adding this level of really nice realism to it. You can see with the foliage.
Hmm. Yeah, nice.
I think it did a good job. Also, it was quite a low-res image, so it kind of added a little bit of detail to it while respecting everything. Yeah, sorry, George. Go.
Yes, camera angles. People asked
Yeah.
about changing camera angles. It is possible with chat to ask for an adjustment in camera angle, but we assume that you, as the designer, are in control of the composition and the view, and that you would upload ideally the change that you want to make, the camera move or whatever, so that then we can sort of adhere to that. Because I think a helpful way to think about it is that the model doesn't see anything outside of the view that you've given it, right? So if we were to ask this
Yeah.
camera to spin around 180 degrees, it would make it up entirely. It's no
Yeah,
longer
exactly.
your building, your design. So while you can attempt it with chat, we recommend that you provide the view that you're thinking of, whether that's a hand sketch or a 3D model, whatever suits. But we want you to be in control of that, right?
But that said, it doesn't, yeah, you mentioned that you can do something with chat. This is why we chat is your experimentation assistant, let's say. So, I mean, I'm going to try to hack it now. As you can, let me go back also here just to show you. This was like the running guy, and you see how well it blends it with the
Yeah,
image.
nice.
So it tries to make it, yeah, a little bit more realistic. It re-renders the whole image to expect to have like some changes. Yeah, so it's not exactly the same as what we were dealing with the edit tool, but it adheres to all your details, etc., while
Yeah.
blending everything nicely together. So yeah, about the multiple views thing, my hack for it right now, before we also like think about it's on our roadmap, and we're really thinking about how we can present this in a way that is useful for designers, because it's useful sometimes to see your building from like different moments of it, yeah, while adhering to the design language, yeah. So I'm holding the pen tool here, and I'm just going to like circle an area there. Let's see if this works. And again, like the previous hack, I like hacking stuff. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. So I'm compositing it basically, which is something that's coming soon. I'm placing the image here. And then I want to take this into chat. Basically, I'll hit the reset to start a new chat. and I will drag and drop this image in, and I will tell it I want to create a zoomed in moment photography of the area circled red. This is to show the detail, the architectural detail there. Maybe add just like macro photography style or something. Needs to be coherent with the design, maybe. Let's see what happens. I mean, again, everything is happening live with you guys, just to see if we fall into
I'll
problems or
answer
not.
a couple more questions in the chat while that one's going.
Yeah.
Some questions about consistency across views of the same space. As I said, uploading separate views is good to make sure that it's consistent with your design. What we find helpful is to be self-referential, by which I mean it would be good to get one view to what you're imagining, and then you can use that output as the reference for the next view. AI is inherently non-deterministic, by which I mean it has an essential bit of randomness in it, so it won't be a perfect, like moving the camera in 3ds Max, but it should get you most of the way there. And then using tools like chat, like edit, like material, you can then make those changes that are different to get a consistent view across. I mean, you will have seen the competition submission before. They did exactly that. There were lots of different views of the same project, but clearly coherent, clearly the same thing, and just working with the canvas and the tools and the way that they behave naturally. So entirely possible, but a slightly different way of working from a traditional render setup.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking too much because I'm excited to see if it's able to manage that. Let's see. Not bad. I mean, it tried. So we have something here to work with, right?
Yeah, it's nice. I quite like the edges on the frames there and the details it's added in.
Yeah. Yeah, and the nice thing, I mean, this was like a really rough try. I mean, if you have an idea about what you want to do, I mean, I didn't have an idea, I just like gave it this. Now, if you really have an idea about what you want to do, you should like be able to get it through using the Gendo assistant, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, we're
Uh,
prompting quickly here as well, right? Whereas if you were to be, you had good prompt there about the camera and the macro, which was excellent. I think adding in more detail about the materiality or the junction that you're expecting to see, all of that
exactly.
stuff would help give it much more guidance.
Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely recommend having fun with the Gendo assistant. Especially for the challenging stuff. The things that are like probably used by like daily drivers of like the architect's life, where you have a 3D model within your software. You have either a 3D model or is it here or here? Yeah, I mean the daily stuff that architects are dealing with is this kind of communication. Yeah, you're in one of those stages, I would say. So if you're like super early and you're trying something using the sketch, if you're still like in a massing environment, maybe this is not really a mass, this also has a little bit of detail that could be a bit more abstracted than that. And you want to like apply a sort of design to it and see how it looks. Or if you already like started modeling all these little details and you want them to show exactly as they are. There's a nice one also, which is good. I think it's a good time to showcase if you have an image like that, which is like layered according to material, but the materials, of course, are not exactly that color. You could also get around with the chat, telling it the cyan color is glass, the I don't know, the beige color is something else, blah blah blah, and it would render it. I tried it, and it kind of did well. So here I told it the cyan is glass, the beige is terracotta, the brown is wood, the red is steel, blah blah blah.
Yeah, nice.
Because there is there is visual intelligence happening here. Like it's before we render anything, we understand it quite well and we know how to deal with it in a way. So try these things with it. You can even start giving it like hex color references. So if you know exactly this color reference, you can add it to your prompt. So this was my prompt basically. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it kind of understood that this is the glass, this is the terracotta, this is the wood, etc., and it made it all into a realistic image. So yeah, again, I think as architects, you are around one of these phases. This is like probably the most advanced one where you have like an landscape image already, which probably enhance would be enough for it, but it doesn't stop you from trying things, editing regions, making it a night shot. Yeah, I mean the world is yours really about what you could do. Maybe last thing I could touch on, I mean, and George, also if you have something to add, is
Yeah,
a bit
maybe
the
just a
styles.
couple of questions before we jump into styles.
Yeah.
Um, Intellectual property. If you're on a paid plan with Gendo, we don't do anything with the data that you provide. We don't train at or really even look at what you upload and generate. That's entirely yours. We obviously don't want to be making it easier for other people to do. So that's all clear and purposefully built for professional practice. Our terms are agreed with some large London studios, so we try to make them as transparent and clear and reliable as possible. So that's an important point for us. So hopefully that's all clear. Someone also asked about undo. This is one that we are working on and have become a bit of a thing. We got carried away with all the fun features and maybe left undo behind. So that is also quickly coming in the roadmap, so it shouldn't be long either.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so maybe I could touch on style, sorry, because I did not do that in the previous uh, workshop. Yeah, let's work with our running from the waves guy. I'm pretty sure I added it to Canvas somewhere. Where is our running guy? Who moved it? Yeah, it's here. Sorry.
Yes,
All
it's
right.
already.
So this is the free one. Let's see. So here we have like a bunch of fine-tuned models for styles that have been trained specifically for like architecture and design, things that we thought would be interesting in terms of like useful for architects as well to use. Because sometimes you can see now how literal the image is, like with the little joints and things, and we are maybe in this example, like our starting point was a bit abstract than that. So sometimes it's a bit dangerous to go quite literal with images, and this is where styles are maybe a good way to show your idea in a really good way, but abstract it a bit without going into too much into like the literal aspect of it. So we have 9 styles. We also offer custom styles for the enterprise customers. Um, I'm going to use the post digital one now and maybe also try out physical model one. We saw that
Yeah, yeah, it's
the
my
winning
favorite.
competition. Yeah, also the winning competition, the competition winner, sorry, using the physical model to communicate their idea, and I think it works quite well. It's really effective in showing your idea in a simple way, and the fact that it becomes miniature somehow, I don't know, it helps a bit abstract all the noise, which is nice. So yeah, I'm generating 2 in parallel now. Maybe we do 3. Why not? So as you
I've
can
done.
see, you already did.
You're already there,
Where are you in the canvas?
just underneath you. I think there's 4 there now.
Wow, where are you, George?
Maybe I'm offline. I need to refresh. Ignore me.
Interfresh. Probably it's becoming too heavy now. There are a lot of people
Yeah, we've got
inside,
some.
so
Yeah,
yeah, okay. So we are rendering these 2. The first one is done. and it is a physical model.
Oh, that wave's really good on the first
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Let me try to get it again. Yeah, yeah. This is pretty nice. So as you can see, because these are fine-tuned models, they interpret things. It's not just about like reading the lines or something. So it took the wave here over there and it made it like into this acrylic blob or whatever. Like, is this even sort of like glass or something? And we have our running man, which is amazing. And he's running from the wave, so the narrative is perfect. And I'm just going to add this to the canvas. One thing to note here is that right now I'm comparing these two images. If I have this selected, this is still the old image. Yeah, I need to add it to the canvas to start working with it. Just a tiny note on that. So here, this is just a preview of the options, so you can compare them. It's really nice to compare the input with the output. And as you can see, it adheres really well with like the geometry itself. Yeah, it reads everything and tries to translate it into this style. We had another one down, we had up here now, yeah. And this is like sort of a collage feel. So this really abstracts everything you have. I really like the texture it used for the water here. It makes it really feel as if it's a handmade collage.
A couple of
Yeah.
questions, Ismail, for you. One I can answer, which is about keeping track of the generations you're doing. You'll notice on the left-hand side of Ismail's
Yep.
screen, there's a few little icons which tell you when a job is done. So you can click on one of those. It will take your screen to the completed output so that you can compare. So you can work on lots of things and make sure that you don't lose a job that you had sent off. The other thing, Ismail, is maybe to show, as you were just doing there, the project history and object history of one of the assets. Yeah, so the object history, you can select, that's one you uploaded, I think, Ismail, so no object history on that one. But once you've
Yeah.
done a few sort of steps in
Yeah.
sequence, you'll see object history. So this is the branch of history which is just for that asset. So you can see every step taken from the very beginning image to get to that particular asset that you have selected. The other side of that is the project history, which is in the bottom left there, and that is every image ever generated on the canvas in chronological order. So you should never lose access to anything that you've generated. You should be able to find it there in the history too. We'll be adding some more details in here so that you get back to the metadata, what prompt you used, what reference image you used, so that, again, you can always come back and find any part of it so that you can have this really fluid process, but you can always get back to any step.
And then finally, I guess this was done by you, some stuff. Where is it?
Yes,
You need to place it on canvas.
I might need to just drag and drop. But...
Yeah, I have it here. It's
there we
fine.
go.
Yep. Some
Nice.
nice sketches. Let's see which one is my favorite. I'm just gonna put them next to each other. I would say this was a bit more successful. Here it blended a bit too much to me. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
subjective. I like also these nice little parallel lines.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, maybe we can just jump across to the last couple of slides and some questions that were submitted ahead of the session. So if I just take back the screen.
Just while you do that, George, just say thank you so much for all the questions in the chat as well. As you can see, George and Ismail tried to cover as many as possible, but we will endeavour to get back to you all. We say this now with all the questions you've asked. So that'll be something I'll be working on tomorrow with the team, because again, loads of great questions that have come through. So yeah, perfect. Yeah, back to you, George.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, one last question's just come in as to whether or not we're related to Gemini. We were there first with our icon, so Gemini copied us, I'll say. But yeah, there we are. So some upcoming features, or some new features rather. Ismail has just taken us through lots on the board, and we've alluded to a few things, but two very recent additions have been this box edit for more general moves and changes to the image to add new information in or to make changes. There's been a few questions about the polygon lasso, which is interesting. We'll have a think about that. But the intention behind the box edit was so that you couldn't be too specific, so that you could let the model do what you asked it to do. So here, remove the cyclists, also their shadows and wherever those other things are. When Ismail used it to add people in, it would have also added reflections if they were needed to. So it does do things across the image, not just where you've selected. And that was partly intentional, but appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, sorry, George, if I can jump in here, also you
Yeah,
touched on a
please.
really good point here. Maybe something I forgot to mention is give the model enough context. Don't like get too literal about like how you are adding the box. Give it a little bit more context so that it understands the whole area you are dealing with. So for example, if you're removing these cyclists, I mean, you would add their shadows as well as give the model a little bit more of their surroundings. Yeah, so this is
Mm.
also why we chose this way of selecting, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, sketch annotations again used in force for the competition, which is very exciting to see. And as we've alluded to, we're going to be making this usable in the generative process so that, for example, someone's extended the walkway here. It would be great, of course, to generate that with that instruction alongside your text. So that's being worked on at the moment and is in testing. So hopefully not too long for that to be out in your hands too. Coming up soon, again, some great questions in the chat alluding to this as well. Material catalog. We've talked about how important references are and being able to find the right thing to make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. People have material libraries and digital libraries of assets, which is great, but it's always a case of finding more that's right for what you need in that moment. So we're adding in a material catalog so that you can use these assets to add in specific textures to your scene using the edit material tool, which keeps the geometry consistent but changes the materiality, where the edit tool would change the geometry too, potentially. So we're adding that in over the next couple of weeks, so that we're very excited about that. And then also video. So Ismail showed the style panel will be similar to that. There will be a bunch of presets again that keep it sort of architecturally controlled and pointed to make sure it's performant and useful, from which you'll be able to take an image, any of the ones we've just done, for example, and then use that to generate a 5 or 10-second video clip with nice sensible camera moves, so that again you can communicate your project and the aspect that you want to show. So that also will be out in beta to start with on the platform, just to see how everyone gets on, and then it will be added into the platform proper shortly after that. So details will be more specific details will be out soon on that one. So yes, maybe to hand over to Joe then for the last little leg here.
Yeah, so thank you all for all the questions and also a lot of feedback within that. And we've got a really short poll, which I'm just going to launch now. So hopefully that can pop up in your screen. There's 3 questions, and we'd really appreciate if you give feedback. So first one is maybe talking around what stage of design you find kind of AI most useful today in general sense. Then maybe talking about what's the biggest barrier to using AI in your studio right now. And then, yeah, George and Ismail, maybe do you want to talk through just while people are voting, the features? So we've got a couple of highlighted, but maybe George, yeah, if you want to cover them off.
Yeah,
And you can select
nice.
multiple, by the way.
Yes. So yeah, maybe just to explain what we mean specifically. So presentation mode, we of course have the board and you could sort of freeform your way around that to look. But for things like competitions or for sharing with clients or colleagues, it would potentially be helpful to, go through frames and see layouts that you've set and to be a bit more controlled about how you're showing these things in what order, etc. So we're wondering how you would feel about that. Better compositing tools, as we've said, we can layer some stuff in the canvas, so being able to use that without doing the sort of hacks that Ismail showed there instead. Improved mobile and tablet support. You can access the platform on mobile. It is a sort of view mode. You can't use the generative tools. On some iPads, it does work, but we've not really tailored it for that. So, being a bit more specific and intentional about making that accessible. Smart mask selection, we saw box, we saw polygon lasso, but we could also add in a way to pre-segment images so that you can just click on it and it will already have smart selected the object in the image. Commenting and review, we saw the sticky notes and the annotations, which is sort of proxy for that, but a proper commenting chain and tagging colleagues and a slightly more thorough system. Project memory, so that as you're working, it's building up an understanding of what it is you're working on, the materials you're using, where in the world this is, so that you're not having to repeat in your prompts these details, that it sort of builds this up over time and is working with you then to be consistent across multiple views and sessions. And then lastly, layout tools. So as I said, we have sort of annotation, but whether we should have frames on the canvas, text, as the guys were asking for earlier, just some stuff to organize and display on the canvas more clearly. So those ones there. So yes, the question is sort of priority order for you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you so much for everyone who's voted so far. I'm going to close that poll in 2 seconds, but at the minute it's around 50% of people, or have also said smart selection tool, which is interesting as well, driving it forward. And yeah, a couple of other bits of questions as well for other. So thank you for sharing that in about adding in 3D models into Gendo in the future. That's come up a couple of times as well. So yeah, really appreciate it. I'm going to end the poll. So thank you so much for everyone who went through that.
Yeah, so just last couple of slides now, just as we had loads of questions from you signing up for the webinar, of course. So we wanted to maybe, if we haven't already said anything, acknowledge and try and answer any gaps. So maybe Ismail, I can take this first page and you can take the next one, unless there's anything in particular I miss. So workflow and integration, yes, so without losing control of geometry, scale or design and intent, hopefully clear from this demonstration and the competition that we try to stick with your intent in the context and information that you give us, right? So if you have done your modeling or sketching or whatever it is, so you have your image, your JPEG or PNG, that has your design in, then we do a lot to make sure that that stays there. So we've been as agnostic as possible as to which software stack you're working in. It should all work as long as you're confident that you're communicating the structure or the detail that you want to see inside of that, so that we can then sort of run with that for you, which then goes to the consistency across views, as we've said, being self-referential. If you've got the same thing with materials or images you've made already, of course, it may take a couple of steps to fix some small details, but broadly that should get you most of the way there. Iterative degradation, yes, we've talked about the models have that issue that we're working to resolve. So conscious of that, as Ismail said, jumping between a few of these tools helps to minimize that. Enhancing sometimes just to bring the image quality back up while you're going is helpful too. Custom training and styles. We have some styles. We have some custom training too. We work with some enterprise studios to work on that. So if you have any interest, please do get in touch with us. Perfectly possible, as shown with the styles on the platform that Ismail put together. Future of the profession, maybe I can give my comment here, and Ismail too, to transition into the next set of questions. I think a golden opportunity for students now to be the ones to take this sort of technology into practice. They're slow, they have their ways, they do things in a particular order. So if you can be the one to master these tools and to then go into practice fully armed with them, then that makes you an absolutely huge asset to them to keep up with the tech. So I think it's certainly worth some time to make sure that you're on top of it and at least have a conceptual and critical understanding of what these things are good for and where the lines are, and how this sort of technology works in a design context. But yeah, maybe give Ismail the floor there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know what to add to that. I'm totally aligned with your view there. And I would say also, like, just looking at what we've been doing over the past hour or so, it's centered around the designer. Yeah, so the main focus, the focal point is basically the designer. So there has never been a more interesting time to tell your story. Like if you have a very good story right now is the time to tell it, because it's much easier to communicate it, as we saw also with the competition winners. Just in 48 hours, you're able to communicate your idea quite clearly, and you're able to show it to also non-architects. Yeah, so our clients are not architects. Yeah, so they need to visualize it correctly. So the fact that you're able to do that now without going through the hassle of jumping through different software or like having super technical skills makes right now really the best time to be a designer with a good idea, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, maybe, yeah, Ismail, if you want to take these questions.
Yeah, design authorship and creative control, how architects keep creative control while using AI tools. You want to add something, George, there?
Yeah, maybe again, just to say that that's the fundamental thesis behind the platform, right? Is that we aren't letting the AI do the creative work. It is always trying to be consistent with your design input, your prompts, and your instruction, so that you're the ones in control. Which is why we don't have the sort of camera moving thing. Like that's a you as the designer issue to be in charge of. So that's a fundamental part of the platform, and any feedback where that isn't happening is gratefully received.
Yeah, and reflecting on that also, this is part of my job right now, yeah, to uh, really see what is useful out of all the noise that is happening around us now, useful for like designers to have design authorship and creative control. Yeah, it's not like just about putting anything that comes out there for you guys to play with. There is a very thorough process of testing and finding the limits of the models before us releasing anything out, which I
Yeah.
really like and enjoy and value. Really, like it's really valuable to be doing that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 8. I mean, BIM and parametric integration, whether Gendo can render outputs from. Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on that in the previous set of questions. We are basically it's a very interesting thought. We are, sorry, platform agnostic, so whatever software you're using to model works with us. We need images in, basically, that our platform deals with images, so any kind of image would work. But that said, we are like it's on our pipeline, but maybe a little bit further down the line, we are working on capturing because all the BIM models already have quite valuable metadata attached to them, not just pixels, but also in terms of text. So it's rich information that would make your experience generating images much more valuable when the model already understands that in your BIM model you have your beams that are already like this type of timber. And this is text information combined with like image information. So it's something that it's on our minds and we're working on it to capture all this information in a very streamlined and useful way so that you don't have like these drops of data happening between different software.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, which is
yes.
maybe also an answer to one of the questions in the chat about integrations to 3D modeling tools directly. Something that's on our sort of slightly more longer term roadmap. As we said, we've tried to be agnostic to be as relevant to as many users as possible. But as Ismail's saying, there's some depth in the 3D models and some more direct relationships between you working in CAD and us helping you visualize what that looks like and communicate. So on the roadmap, but not a sort of immediate feature. Maybe I'll just sort of skip into 11 from this as a sort of extension of the question, really going from CAD and into more traditional rendering. I mean, we see it this way, that they're not mutually exclusive, that there will always be a need for the really high quality artists who use the really specific tools like V-Ray, Lumion, etc., to get, the highest possible quality hero image that's going to be on the billboard and, sell the project. But that's not every image, and that's not within the resource of every practice to be able to do that. So we see AI images as part of that iteration, communication, design development tooling, and an easier way for you to communicate to other people what it is your intention is. It is possible, of course, to get beautiful images on the platform as well, but we see it as a part of the workflow rather than an end product. So often sits neatly side by side. And I mean, Ismail showed a good example of going from a sort of reasonably resolved SketchUp screenshot with materiality texture to, a more realistic image. We often see people coming with screenshots from Enscape, for example, and then using Gendo to really bring those to life and to add lots more photorealism and detail in. So I think it can slot quite neatly alongside, or it can replace it in its entirety, depending on, the way that you work. So I think just another tool in the tool belt.
Yeah, agreed. And like I would say a little bit on that, a little bit of a differentiator. What I enjoy about this is its unpredictability. It's weird that I'm saying that, but the fact that these models hallucinate is what it's a big differentiator than like the Lumions and the V-Rays and the Enscapes of our workflows. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, a feature,
I
not a bug, as they say.
exactly, it's a feature, not exactly. Like when I was doing the live demo right now, I didn't know what's going to like. It's so unpredictable that I didn't know what's going to be the output, and this is exciting in a design environment. Let's say when you're trying to chase ideas, this is very exciting, and like this should be in the hands of good designers because it helps them make better decisions, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the last couple of questions. Interior design, we don't really see a huge difference fundamentally on the platform. I think the Venn diagram is basically overlapping. I think the addition of the material catalog will certainly help a lot with that. But we did a lot of exterior views then, just by virtue of the assets we had to hand. But I think should be just as useful for interior designers as anyone else. I think a quarter of the people who sign up are in interior design, so certainly is finding its use case there too. And maybe on the future of Gendo, yeah, it is a rapidly evolving landscape. I mean, keeping up with AI news is a full-time job in and of itself, let
Yeah.
alone doing anything with it. But I guess that's it. Like for us, we capture all of this stuff for you so that you don't have to worry. So all the latest models that are relevant to the design use case are already in Gendo, and we continue to do that every day. In terms of the future, there's a lot, right? We're touching lots of parts of the process with the image production and design communication, and we're getting lots of info from you to help understand that. So we can see lots of routes to support in other parts of the process, whether that's with putting together planning application competition boards or getting into the 3D of it all as well, as we've been discussing. So this is something that we work closely on with design partners, with studios that we work very closely with and test out our tools in beta. So again, if you're part of a studio that would be interested in working closely with us and giving some direct feedback as to what you would like to see and what would be meaningful in 5 years' time for you as a practice, then please do get in touch. We'd love to have the conversation and see what you think.
Yeah, I can't believe that they wrote so just reflecting on the question 5 years. I mean, we're in the AI space. It's 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
it's a
mean, we
little bit
released
maybe
the
6 months. Yeah.
platform. Yeah, I mean, we released the platform 2 and a bit months ago now, and we've already added a bunch of new features. So, yes, conceptualizing 5 years can be challenging.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, maybe to hand back to Joe for the very last slide.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, thank you everyone so much for all your questions and your comments as well. It's been amazing to kind of follow along as well. And thank you so much for Kurt and Thea as well for joining. It was brilliant at the start as well going
Hi,
through that.
guys.
Hey, thank you so much. And and Ismail and Georgia is excellent as well, going through kind of your flows and how how you do it. We get a lot of questions around that. And of course, just from my side as well, and the team, just thanks so much for attending. If you are interested in the annual subscription, we do have a 25% off for 12 months, which also gives you 2 months free. I'll follow up with an email and a very short feedback survey, which would be really appreciated if you can respond. But yeah, maybe back to yourself, George and Ismail, just to say thanks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, thanks everyone. This is a proper session, and really appreciate all of the insightful questions. Thanks again to Kurt and Thea for their time. Amazing to see the walkthrough of the project. Maybe one last thing also to say is that educational users, there is an educational access. So if you sign up, you should get added to automatically. But if not, get in touch and we can arrange that for you. So yeah, thanks again.
Thanks.
yeah, I mean, thanks everyone. I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, we've been releasing so quickly that I would say definitely see you soon. Hopefully,
Yeah,
showing you the new stuff that we've been working on. Pretty
yeah,
exciting times, really.
yep. And yeah, great sort of definite question around the t-shirt Gendo logo as well. So yeah, maybe we'll work some merch as well as thanks for everyone attending. But yeah, we'll have another event in the next couple of weeks as well. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.